Yeah. Not sure what's happening with the birds, but they're they're not usually this musical. But anyway, today's video, I thought I'd do this one because it's fresh. It's a, what would you call it? It's a something coming up for me personally on a personal level, which is fantastic. I love it when stuff comes up for me for healing, for release and everything else like that. It's never a lot of fun looking at it and going through that remorse or that letting go of whatever it is, but I love the idea that when you can see something, when it's crystal clear right in front of your face all of a sudden after so long, and you sort of wonder, how have I not seen this before? So for anyone who's been asleep for the last week, Harley Davidson has just gone woke, and I have no sort of for or against or anything of that, but I do have a Harley Davidson, and I've had one for quite a long time, primarily because, I've got to say, because of the marketing and the lifestyle image that they present. And even though it wasn't until like yesterday when I discovered they'd gone woke that something went ding in my head, and I'd realised that I'd been a victim of marketing, or maybe not a victim of marketing, because you're always consciously making your choices. But it hadn't really dawned on me how much I'd invested any kind of sense of self-identity into the external landscape, in this case revolving around the idea of Harley Davidson, or a motorcycle in general, really. I think it's just a motorcycle lifestyle, but I think Harley embodies that lifestyle probably better than anybody, really, unless you're a racing bike enthusiast, and then so the idea, the spiritual idea that all idols must fall and will, right? This is a beautiful classic case example on a personal level for me, and I'm so joyous about it. It's just like, yes, here's a opportunity, and I'm kind of in the middle of it, right? So even today I was looking at the idea of it. I just came from the car and bike show up the road here, which I knew was on, but I just sort of happened to stumble across it and went for a look. There wasn't really any bikes, but there was a lot of cars, and it brought up a lot of nostalgia around the idea of being involved in a certain kind of lifestyle or a certain kind of attitude towards life that really, and it's more for bikes, and I guess pushed by the Harley brand, but up until now, of being sort of like the lone outcast, the lone warrior, the lone traveller, lone wolf, whatever you want to look at that as. It's like Harley has never been a mainstream icon. They've always had this kind of, I mean, in the recent 20 years, I suppose you could say, they've really been promoting their product and really been expanding their Harley shops into these big dealership, big glass sort of. So I guess they have, but I haven't really noticed it. So on a personal level, it's been something that I think I must have picked up somewhere in a moment in life when I was feeling a certain way. And when you're feeling a certain way in life, it tends to be that unless you are fairly mature, and I'm not, unless you are fairly mature in the grounding of your own spiritual determination, and I guess maybe I am now, I'll give myself a little bit of credit, but it tends to be that when you're feeling a certain way about something, the mind automatically drifts out into the sphere of association within the world, looking for something to fill the gap, looking for something to make everything better. And for me, I realised that riding a motorcycle, and I've had all sorts, I've had Japanese ones and English ones and whatever, but where I used to live in recent years, for the last 20 odd years, the biggest dealership was the Harley one, and therefore majority of people that I met around that area all ride Harley, so I ended up just naturally buying a Harley. after a very bad experience with the Ducati dealership up there. I'm not going to get into that. There was a lot of forgiveness around that one. But now, of course, all of this woke stuff's come out, and Harley has done a huge shift in their branding. And all of a sudden, I don't really care. I mean, it's their business who they sell bikes to or how they want to market, whatever. But all of a sudden, I felt a certain way about it. It's like, what? What do you mean? Like, what's going on here? It really opened everything up for me. And I'm totally grateful for that, because I didn't realise that I'd had this kind of set in my ways association with this sort of image, this idea, which is what everything is, right? You're always looking at ideas about yourself. And in this case, for me personally, it was Harley Davidson. I mean, for other people, it might be fishing as a lifestyle accoutrement, let's say, or dancing or something, or, you know, it can be anything out in the world. It doesn't have to be, you know, but I think the shock to my system was, and this is where I'm still allowing it to unravel in my introspective, sort of self-reflective, because I want to get right to the bottom of this, right? I'm in the middle of it now, and it's juicy, and I want to get right to the bottom of it, dig it out and be done with it. But I think the thing for me was that subliminally, Harley Davidson represented a 105, however many years they've been going, 105 years producing the same sort of, there was a continuity, there was a thing. And of course, because you are the Christ mind naturally, and you do have this unbroken continuity or this eternal nature of self, there is a part of you intrinsically that is looking for that in the world, which is why we try to control everything and hold it all together so it doesn't change, you know. And all of a sudden, Harley's done this big change. And I think for me, at some point in my life, the image portrayed that I obviously have bought into has been flipped now. But the image portrayed was of one that is rock solid, resolute. This is what they stand for. This is what they're about. And I can depend on these guys for this particular thing, right? Now, I guess you can still depend on them for that particular thing. The motorcycles, they're not going to start producing a lesser product, even though they're not fully American made anymore, Chinese, Japanese, Indian parts. Don't want to get into that. I'm not a marketing person on behalf of other motorcycles. Triumph. But I have had this very big part of my life that I hadn't really realised that was a big part of my life. I mean, on the surface, if you had to ask me, I would have just said, well, it's a fairly reliable motorcycle. It gets me to work and back and gets me around and does what I need to do. And the dealership's big and they look after me, and that's it. I'm happy with the product, happy with the service, happy with everything. But of course, when you buy into any idea about anything, fishing, let's say, you're buying into a whole collective consciousness, a whole collective idea that pervades, you know, it's like when you buy a yellow car, you start to see yellow cars everywhere. When you buy a Harley Davidson, and I'm just going to use them as the specific example for this video. If you don't like Harleys, that's great. I mean, I know they're not the most reliable, bestest bikes on the market, but for me, they represent something that's good enough, you know. The idea, when you buy into it, you're buying into something that is, right, because I find myself as the seeming individual association through the avatar, you cannot not buy into, let's say, this leaf, an idea of a leaf or a Harley Davidson, which is the same as this leaf, and not also buy into collectively and subconsciously everything associated with leaves, trees, fruit, flowers, bees, birds, everything else comes along with it. And somewhere there is an understanding on a huge thing, even though you might only be looking at the particulars of this one particular leaf, it sort of has feelers out, you know, with everything. So even though I only have one Harley Davidson, it's my runaround bike, it's not a, you know, but somewhere at a certain point in my association, I've picked up on all the vibes that go along with that and haven't questioned it, right? Which is really cool. I love the idea of being exposed and being open and being vulnerable to looking at what it is that the bloody hell I'm doing in my own head. And it's like, God damn, I must have really bought into this because it made me feel a certain way. And my first reaction was, hang on a minute, you can't do that. You can't, you can't just go from being this rock solid thing that I have an idea about to being now something else. It's like, what can I depend on in the world? You know, what is there out there that's going to support me and sustain me in a way where it makes me feel like, whew, good old Harley Davidson, they're trustworthy and they only represent this one idea. If I can just maintain that relationship with that one idea in the world, I'll be safe, I'll be comfortable, I'll be good, and I'll be happy for the rest of my days. All of a sudden, the rug gets pulled out under your feet, whoop, and it's like, oh, damn, God is my only resource. God is my only safety, my only security, my only supply. And there's another idol, fallen. And it feels good. It feels good. It feels like, and the funny thing is, only last week because I have got a truck and the bike fits in the truck and whatever, I've put a new rear end on the bike and it's made it just this bit long, which makes it hard to get into the truck. And the bike's 4 years old, so I was thinking about selling the bike and buying a new one, and I was going to buy the Triumph Bobber, if anybody knows what that looks like. But it's quite a nifty little bike. I like it. It's stylish and dashing and, you know, gets you around. But the whole idea of adjusting now, right? So part of me, right, this is the ego part of me that has invested in the notion of the Harley Davidson lifestyle. I mean, I don't go to bike runs particularly. I don't go to anything. I mean, I always say hi to people on the road if I see them, but I'm probably the least Harley person. But somewhere in my mind, it really ticked me off that they've changed what it is they represent. And not that I've got anything against that whole thing, as I said, but in my own mind, I'd obviously compartmentalized Harley Davidson with something else. And now I'm looking at other things. Now it's made me open my mind a bit more and look at other things. Like, what else have I bloody bought into that I don't really realize and recognize? What other externalization of my temporal association is there that I've invested out there and given my power away to try and tell me who I think I am as this person that in this case rides a Harley and this is what I'm about. And whenever people have said to me, oh, you're a biker and you're this and you're that, that's never felt comfortable with me ever. Like even from day dot, it's like, no, I'm just Dave, you know, I'm just Dave and I've got my own deal going on, and, you know, but somewhere I must have let something creep in. Anyway, so God bless Harley Davidson, and thank you for playing your part perfectly for me to help me to let go of the world in its entirety and purify my mind of all temporal association, because salvation is freedom from concepts, and the idea of anything that's marketed or bought into or collectively conscious or anything, it is a temporal association. It's not truth, it's not reality, it's just another thing in the dream, you know. So that's a good thing, and I don't know if I did, but I feel like I had a little shift with, I've just been down the Gold Coast, which is about an hour from here, on the way back, driving back, and something was going through my head about it, and I let it go, and I feel like maybe there's more there to dig into. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's superficial. But it was kind of juicy. It was nice. It was juicy. I thought, I've got to make a video about this whilst it's raw, whilst I'm sitting in it, and whilst I'm feeling a certain way about it, and all of this stuff, because it's really beautiful, you know. And I mean, I know somebody who, it's like when, you know, I don't want to get into another story, but there used to be a thing when I was living up north. We didn't have a a, what's that donuts that everybody likes at the airports? We had Dunkin' Donuts, we didn't have the other one. And there's this kind of debate about which donuts are the best one. It's like, man, I just like donuts. I don't really care. They're just delicious, you know. And Krispy Kreme, that's the one, Krispy Kreme. And some people have a real thing with it, right? It's a real energy, a real abiding with, there's like a loyalty and thing. The same as I realised that I have with Harley Davidson all of a sudden, even though if you had have asked me a week ago before this was all exposed to me as the idol that's now falling or fallen, I probably would have said to you, no, I'm not fussed about Harley as a brand or anything. I just like the bike. It's comfortable and gets me around, and you know, it's powerful enough. But what a liar I am. What a liar, you know. It's like, and you would have thought I would have seen that one. You would have thought I'd have seen it clearly because, man. I mean, I teach this stuff, but you got to teach it to hear it. This is the whole thing about teaching to hear it, teaching to learn. You know, it's like, it's funny. It's just funny. One thing shows up after another, after another, after another. And it's a beautiful journey, really, but there's always these moments, you know, the moments. And if you miss them, they go around, they come around again. It's like they come around again and they show up in a different way. And then you're like, it's the same energy. Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kremes, Harley Davidson or Triumph or whatever. I do like the Triumph bike though, however, it's quite sweet looking. But the backstory with everything is that it's another trap. It's another tether in the world. Anytime I have an idea or opinion about anything in the world that's good, bad, better or worse, right or wrong, any dualistic kind of like this brand or that brand or this sort of lifestyle or that sort of lifestyle, I'm full of shit. I'm a liar and I'm just faking it and not really being true to myself. And the past associations of the avatar, of the false identity, of the idea of Dave, those roots go right back, even to the point like yesterday I was up in the library at Mum and Dad's house here, yesterday, or the day before anyway, and I remember doing a video about this birthmark in my forehead, and my daughter saying, Dad, that's not a birthmark because I saw a photo of you when you were a baby and you didn't have it. And it brought up the memory of this Indian guy that poked me in the head and said, this will be your last life, or your last life. He said, this is your last life, and went dunk, poked me in the head, crossing the street with my mother when I was about 12, 10, you know, very strange sort of out of sequence happening there. But the threads of association go right back, you know, and it's beautiful when they're uncovered and exposed. It's like I feel now so free of that whole junk of the association that I had with, and not really even realizing that I was carrying it around, this whole idea of Harley Davidson and whatever. And I had somebody send me a new Harley Davidson shirt a few weeks ago. I think I mentioned it on my video, and it was like, oh cool, Harley Davidson shirt, thank you. You know, I got all excited about it, and it's always nice to have a new shirt, you know. But now that I'm down here and I have to wear clothes, but it's just funny. I'm just grateful. I'm just totally grateful, you know. So the thing that surprises me, and it's like Yoda, you know, if you're a Star Wars fan, when the Master Jedis are sitting around in the auditorium and they're being told of the presence of a new Sith Lord, or you know, and they're like, what is it, complacent we have become if we could not see this in our mind's eye, you know. And it's like, holy crap, it really threw me for a six, both that I had an association with this whole idea and also that I didn't see it. I couldn't, it was just like it was hidden back there, you know. But like Jesus says in the Course, everything hidden will be exposed, and it's like, oh, thank God for that. because now I feel more liberated. Now I feel more at peace with whatever it was that was taking up space in my association with. You know, there's a greater affinity I have with the whole now. I'm starting, and every time you have a shift, you'll feel that way. Every time, doesn't matter what the shift's relative to out in the world. I mean, that's all just symbolic. It's just an idea of something that represents an element of denial of true self or whole self, where everything seems to want to be compartmentalized up and controlled. And it's like I don't want to compartmentalize up my interests in the world or my identity factors in the world anymore. I don't want to try and control things. I want it all exposed so I can let the whole lot of it go. It's all rubbish, you know. It's all not true. And every time, because this is a journey into Phare, every time I'm willing to look at an idea about myself when it's exposed, and sometimes you can catch it in your thinking, which hopefully complacent I have become. But every time there's a shift, that sense of peace and that sense of connectedness, it becomes more expansive. I don't know how to talk about it. Just more expansive, more open, more breathable, more, you know, like it's feel really nice. So anyway, that's it. I just thought I'd put that one out there whilst it was fresh, because it's really juicy. I might go take my bike for a ride now and put on my rainbow beanie. Thank you. I love you guys, and thank you for all the questions and the support, and like, it really means a lot. And I did want to ask for you guys that are watching these things, like if one particular video sticks out for you, I mean, you can share it. Right down below there's a link and it says copy link, and you can copy that link and put it on all your social media platforms, and like put that effort in and be prepared to get the flack back for it if that's the case in your own association. But remember, don't defend yourself. Don't defend yourself against anything. Thy will be done. You're a child of God. You don't need defense. Your innocence is implicit in your creative source, which is God, all-encompassing, etc. I love you. Thank you. See you in the next one.